Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Mansfield Matters Podcast. It's a very different Mansfield Matters Podcast tonight because we are pre-recording this because schedule-wise, basically, Nigel Clough has got more people available to him than what we've got tonight. So we've had to pre-record it, and we're going to get underway very, very shortly indeed. You've got about a minute to go and make yourself a cup of tea. We'll see you on the other side. 2 points from 2 games. Points, plural. A step in the right direction. Maybe. There is, however, an argument that Mansfield Town perhaps should have had 6 points from their last 2 games. A late penalty miss from Lucas Akins at Burton, followed by a couple of goal-mire scrambles. And then there was last night, where the Stags couldn't score to save their lives. Still, though, 2 points is better than none, and Mansfield Town are hopefully turning a corner, helped no doubt by the return of Dave. All of that to come over the next half an hour or so on a pre-recorded Mansfield Matters podcast. So if you are watching this go out live, feel free to interact with each other in the comments, but we won't be there to see them or interact back with you. This is the show for the fans, by the fans. Why? Because Mansfield always matters. Let's get the show underway, shall we? Hello, good evening, or good afternoon, good morning, whatever you want to call it. We are pre-recording this. I'm going to emphasise that point until the cows come home. So if you are in the live feed and you're watching this live, we're not live. We can't say hello to all of you as you come in. We can't respond to all the robots out there trying to sell us sanitary pads. We just can't do it. So have a field day and chat between yourselves. So what I've done is I've assembled a crack team of Mansfield Town supporters to talk all things Mansfield Town over the next half hour or so. And recap on the last 2 games and 2 points in the right direction. Let's say hello, good afternoon and good evening to those people. First up on the old mobile blower, let's say hello to a man who's just finished putting some glass together and hopefully didn't smash any. Good afternoon, Jim.
Afternoon, Craig. Afternoon, everybody. No, nothing smashed. Not today.
Absolutely. And a man who is always there ready to smash things, whether it be opinions or just people's general comments on Facebook. It's Clive. Good afternoon, Clive.
Hello, Craig. Hello, everybody.
And a man who completes our lineup for only his 2nd podcast appearance this season. It's because it's the afternoon. Mr. Nathan Nedge, welcome back to an OG. Welcome back to the podcast, my friend.
Hello, Priestley. How are we doing?
It's very lovely to see your beautiful face and to hear your voice. Welcome back. You know what we always say on this podcast, don't you? And that is, whenever the chips are down, we need to call on the OGs to come back together and shine some light on this and talk about CJ and Amari and all of those people. How have you been? Where have you been? And what are you making of everything, Nath?
I mean, if you want to talk about OGs and players of the past, let's talk about Ryan Sweeney. What a guy!
Yes.
But no, I'm all good. I'm all good. It's nice to be back on. In jest, we said on the podcast, on Twitter, or X as it's now known as, the other day, you said about me sort of coming back. He was having a dig at me about calling Dave Deji, right, which I do apologise. Obviously, I was completely off brand. However, I said I'd come back. I only pod when we're League Two. Well, I'm back, but I'm still hopeful that we won't be League Two. I think I think we're turning a corner. I don't like to say that because it's tempting fate, but performances are creeping up a little bit. We just need to find the back of the net.
I think Clive, Nathan mentioned there, the man who has probably been instrumental to our little bit of a turn of the corner. Nathan referred to him as Deji. I've never heard that name used on this podcast before. Having Dave back is certainly a massive step in the right direction, isn't it?
Certainly is, and certainly he was imperiously in command yesterday, and we've missed him. There's no question about that. I'd even go as far as to add points to that statement. I think had he been fit and able to play throughout the period that he wasn't, we'd have had 5, maybe 6 more points in the pot.
It just goes to show, Jim, doesn't it, how much of a difference those players who are propping up the injury wing at the RH Academy have on our team. You know, like Clive's just mentioned there, we look like a different defence with Dave back in that back 4, back 5.
Oh yeah, I mean, you look at the first half of the season when we sort of had our good spell. It was him and Gregory who I think carried the team, and it was a little bit of a false position really, but carried by those two, and there's no doubt about it. He's made a massive difference. He's one of our best 2 or 3 players without question. And Cargill's looking good as well. I'll give him a shout out as well.
I felt last night, Nathan, that we actually played probably what is our strongest back 4 at the minute. We've gone back to a back 4 rather than the back 5. Elliot Hewitt at right back, Dave and Cargill at centre back together, and then a resurgent Stephen McLaughlin in at left back. We looked comfortable for once, which feels weird to say at the minute.
Yeah, it is strange, especially when we've that was our first clean sheet since Peterborough. So we're going back a good few months there. So it's been a long time coming to get a clean sheet. But I think it's just you do feel a bit more confidence, in the defence that we've got there at the moment, which is strange, really, because it's still, you'd probably say it's a makeshift defence just because of there's not that many options. But like you say, I think based on current form, they're probably the 4 you'd put in there, and I don't think we could actually field a back 5 really, because it just wouldn't really work at the moment. So from the personnel that's available, it's a good back 4, especially with Macca up in his game of late, creating some links down the left-hand side, which is good. It used to be Macca and Quinn, but it looks like him and Vickers are getting a bit of a partnership going, which will be, hopefully pay a bit of dividends going forward. I mean, it's good. It's a good base to start on. We've got the clean sheet. I know we're obviously missing Pym at the moment, but Flinders has come in. He hasn't done anything wrong. He didn't have anything to do last night against Wigan, but we at least as a defensive unit, we look a bit more comfortable, and I think that's something to build on going forward.
Before we delve back into Burton and the Wigan game, Nathan, I just want to stick with you for just a minute. Obviously, we are in a bit of a terrible form at the moment. I think we've definitely turned a corner in the last couple of games. But what have you made of that run prior to the Burton game? Because it was panic stations were starting to grow a little bit. And I know you sort of said tongue in cheek that you only pod when we're in League Two, but that didn't feel like it was going to be too far away.
No, and we certainly can't rest yet. I mean, we're now 7 points clear. So last night, even though it was a point, it was actually a pretty good point, because obviously Burton lost to Wycombe. So it was a point gained as far as I'm concerned, and it's a point closer to that sort of magic 50 points that Nigel Clough's targeting. So from that side of things, we're not safe yet. We're far from it, but the performances are improving. I think it's certainly been a confidence issue. I think what happened at Shrewsbury against 10 men was an incredible low. That was kind of good throwback to a couple of years ago at Northampton, but maybe a bit worse to a certain extent, the fact that the way that we capitulated there. And then I don't think Blackpool necessarily helped, even though we played so much better, to then get pegged back and only get a point when we deserved more out of it. That didn't help as well. So we certainly should have had a few more points than what we have on the board. I think for me, the performances, like I said, they are improving. But my biggest concern is this injury issue that we have got, and the fact that it's now Nigel is attributing some of it to the training facilities. I think we really need to get that sorted, because I don't think it's a coincidence since the RH opened. we've always joked. We said it a couple of seasons ago about the curse of the RH when Dave was in charge, because it seemed to be injuries started to come in. Well, maybe there is a link there, and it's something that probably needs to be certainly looked at over the summer, because it's certainly been to our detriment this season. And if that does contribute to us actually getting relegated in the end, that's a massive sort of self-inflicted wound that we've given ourselves there to deal with.
It's the Bobby Elashnik curse, really. Jim, let's go back to Burton, shall we? You were at Mansfield Matters HQ watching it on the big screen. It was a frustrating afternoon for us, wasn't it, really? They didn't really trouble us. We didn't really trouble them for a lot of it. And then from somewhere in the second half, we sort of turned it up a notch. And in the end, as much as we were pleased with a point, we were sort of left a little bit flabbergasted and still waiting for Lucas Aiken's penalty to land.
Oh, well, where do you start with Burton? I mean, I think the first half I'd like to think, marks the end of the bad trot of performance form, playing with a back five. And then from at half time, we went to the back four. I think it was just it was like a totally different side, totally different team altogether. And I mean, even though we've not won these last two games, and we probably should have done, I've took a lot of heart and belief, and I think, and a lot of morale boosting, whatever you want to call it, from the last two games, that we can do enough now to avoid relegation. I think, 6-7 more points, and we should basically be all right. So I can't, that's 6 more draws from 12 games. I think if the way we're playing, currently like this, then we should be, touch wood, should be okay. But I'd reiterate what Nathan said about injuries. We've got to keep certain players fit. That if anything is going to scupper us now, I think it'll be that, the injuries.
I think Clive, that Jim's got a major point there in terms of if anything's going to scupper us, it will be injuries. And you look at, I think, at the back four last night: Hewitt, Dave, Cargill, McLaughlin. It's protect those first and foremost, because those four as a quartet seemed solid, and they gave us that base to try and build from in both games, really, especially in the Wigan game last night. And you take one of those out of the equation, and it's all of a sudden looking a little bit wobbly. Yeah,
it is very precarious because of the shallow pool of resource that Nigel Clough's now got to work with. Some of that's down to bad luck, of course. Some of it may be down to training facilities, others down to stupidity on the field or off the field. But what we've got is a team. We've got a squad which has rarely been fully available to the manager. At the moment, he claims 10 of the players are out. Well, that's a huge hole to fill. So we do have to protect the back four, because to pick up on one of Clough's favourite sayings, if you can't win, don't lose. And you don't lose if you've got a good back four or a good back defence lineup. And I think we just started to see it come back. I took more comfort from the clean sheet last night than anything else. Disappointed we didn't actually pick 3 points up at over in Burton, because by and large I think our second half display deserved it. And I thought last night, I think if we were still been playing, we wouldn't have scored last night. I think it was one of those games where whatever we did, they were going to stop it. They came not to lose, and they achieved that. All this just adds up to one thing. It's just the difference between success and failure at this level is minute. And all we've missed all season, in my opinion, and it's a little bit, it's out of everybody's control. But what we've lacked this season is the appearance of Lady Luck. Everything that could go wrong's gone wrong. We don't win any 50-50s. Referees tend to favour the opposition. Anything. Perhaps I'm being over pessimistic, but the good news is I agree. I think we are turning the corner now.
Yeah, turning the corner is the massive thing. I think what Clive said there, Nathan, is an important point as well, that Nigel Clough said in his sort of evening with that his dad used to say, when you're in a bit of a bad run, the important thing is to go and get a result. And a result can be something as little as a clean sheet. I think as much as we were frustrated coming away from One Call Stadium last night, having not scored, given the amount of chances we had, the most important thing for me was the fact that the opposition didn't score.
Yeah, and they didn't really look like scoring, to be honest, as well. So I think that is testament to how we sort of controlled the game. They had a couple of spells where they had the 3 consecutive corners, but aside from that, I can't really think of much they offered us, especially in the second half. So I think we got to take a lot again, like I say, from the performance, the fact that we were able to keep the ball better, which is something that we've certainly not done as well of in the last couple of months. Aside from the last few games, so that bit's creeping back into our game, and we can take confidence from that. So you just hope, a bit like Clive said, luck turns a little bit. I think you sometimes create your own luck, and the more we put the ball into the box, into good areas, inevitably at some point it will go in. You could argue we had a better luck again, with Ryan Sweeney putting it in the back of the net for us at Burton, but that was again deserved. We was putting the ball in the right places, and it fell for us. So it will come. It's just now, like we said, build from that defensive display, and hopefully the next result can just be a 3 points on the board, which is we're massively grateful at this point.
I think it would be massively grateful, but it is like anything else, Clive, small baby steps. And I think you sort of know historically from Nigel Clough's tenure that 3 points won't actually be that far away now, because we've stopped the rot, we've kept a clean sheet, we've changed shape and got a little bit more energy back. It's the next logical thing to drop.
Yeah, I think even though we've had some really awful disappointment over the last 12 games, by and large, we haven't played that bad. It just hasn't worked out. And we haven't, until recently, managed to put 2 full halves together. We've been good in one half and poor in the other. Now, if you can correct that, we appear to now. And if we can just find someone to get a piece of their body on the end of a cross, whether it's their knee, the arse, or the bollocks, I don't care, as long as they get it in the net, because that's the missing link at the moment. Now, last night there were plenty of chances created from the sides of the pitches in terms of crosses, and we just weren't at the races when it came to poking it in. And all around me last night, because we're all fatalists, we were saying we're completely on top of this game. They've not made a chance for themselves. We're peppering their goal. They're going to run away from a breakaway and score. And the difference was last night, they didn't. So that's another reason I think we're turning the corner.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's be clear though, that they
difference.
weren't that good. I mean, as a strike force, they're a bit limp. A couple of their best players haven't come back yet, but it doesn't matter. You can only play what's in front of you.
Yeah, that is very, very true indeed. Another bright spark, Jim. Talking there about creating chances and peppering their goal, which we've definitely struggled to do over the last probably 5-6 games. I know Nigel Clough has referenced certain games. Blackpool was perhaps an anomaly. He lists Lincoln up there for some reason, although I disagree that we were in that game. I thought we were way off the pace in that game, but certainly Blackpool, Burton, Wigan, Wrexham, in those games we have played and performed well, and that's when we've switched formation slightly. We've changed from this back five and trying to put players square pegs in round holes again. We've gone for more of a 4-3-3, and Caelan Vickers has been very much the fuel to pour on the fire in that. He's been absolutely excellent.
Yeah, definitely. I think when we talk about turning the corner, I think the main reason, obviously, is it's got to be said, is the changing formation, because it's got us higher up the pitch. And it's got us nearer to the opposition goal regularly, and it's got our attacking players nearer to where they can do the damage, which gives me some heart to, if Dave or Cargill do get injured, I think it's the system that's made us tighter. So if Kilgore or Flint have to come in, it might not be too much of a drop off, because I think it's the system as a team making us stronger defensively, not just the 2 centre halves, which is good in a way, isn't it? Obviously, because it's not all or nothing on Cargill and Dave, but yeah, I think it is. It's all that formation. I can remember saying before he changed the formation, he's got to change something, otherwise he's going to lose his job. And he has, and it's made all the difference. We look a different side, and I think we should be relatively upbeat. I do. I say I think it's never as bad as you think, and it's never usually as good as you think. But literally, I think 6 more. I mean, a win would move the needle, but 6 more draws, I think, would be enough.
It is the win now, though, Nathan, isn't it? To get that monkey off our back a little bit, and just to relieve a little bit of stress, a little bit of worry, a little bit of anxiety. Because like we just said, it's the next logical step in Clough's DNA, really.
I think a win just changes the outlook in a sense, depending on whether you're the pessimist, whether you're pessimist priest, pessimist parking, or an optimist. The thing that you look at it, it's a bit like Nigel said in his post match last night. He said 2 games unbeaten. Well, you can look at it that, or you can look at it 12 games without a win. You know, a win, if we were to go on and get the 6 points like like mentioned, but they're all draws, then you get to the end of the season, and what would that take us to? About 20 games on without a win. So you'd look at that like, what an awful end to the season. However, a couple of wins in there, it won't feel anywhere near as bad if we just get safe. A couple of wins. It's a bit like how I mentioned last time I was on the pod a good few weeks ago. Is it doesn't help us that we seem to, for some reason this season, everything's come all at once. We go on a run where we get lots of good results, and we go on a bad run, then we pick it up again, go on a run. It's not a win here, loss there, win here, loss there, draw here. It's just, it seems to all come in one go, and in some ways it would feel very different if we spread it out a little bit. But that's why I feel like let's just get a 3 points. A win would just feel so much different, and you could look at it. Even the pessimists wouldn't be able to look at it in that vein, because you could say then it's three games unbeaten and a win in there. It's very different.
Yeah, and it just lifts the atmosphere a little bit as well. And we've not got the easiest of trips coming up with Stevenage and then Exeter on Tuesday night as well. We'll do predictions in just a minute at that. But just going back briefly to the Burton game and the Wigan game last night, Clive, what gave you the most heart generally in terms of how we can move forward from this going into the last the final furlong of the season, so to speak?
Several things really. One, I think whether he wanted to or not, the inclusion of Flinders. There's been a debate all season about whether he is being treated correctly by the way that Pim's always been the preferential player. And I'm not going to fall out with anybody over Pim versus Flinders. Flinders was my choice simply because he doesn't stand on his line all through the game. And I think Nathan said he's done nothing wrong in the games he has played, and I'd agree with that. I thought the re-emergence of McLaughlin as a player, an influential player recently, the bringing back into play of Dave, and the bright spark called Vickers. Those 4, to me, are quite important changeable ingredients. Vickers is great. He's a bright spark. He's got clever trickery. He just needs to simplify his game a little bit to suit the game he's playing. He's got a big future in front of him. It won't be with us, but he's got a big future in front of us. If we can just get him staying as forward in the game as possible for the rest of this season, it'll help us enormously.
Yeah, it certainly will. And again, Nathan, it's just that thing, isn't it, about finding our way forward, like Clive said there, having those 4 key ingredients and sort of giving them the best way to thrive. Nigel said in his post-match interview yesterday that one thing they'd spoken to Caelan Vickers about was you don't always have to take a man on. So one time, mix it up, sort of do routines. The first time you take a man on, the second time you get a crossing early, the third time you play the ball inside. Make the right back or the left back double question what it is that you're going to do, and then we will stay on top of games. And I think more importantly as well, having Stephen McLaughlin behind him, that experience, that now's pushing forward, just gives us a little bit more of a dynamic. It's weird to think that your best attacking option is your left back.
Well, I mean, it's another. I think it's quite common in today's game, to be honest, with your overlapping fullbacks or wingbacks or whatever system you're playing with. So I did think that was quite interesting that Cliffy did mention about what he'd spoken with Vickers prior to last night, because I did notice throughout the game he was definitely bringing in a lot of balls went to the sort of square to Reed, and then he linked up play well, or like I said there, he's building up a bit of a relationship with McLaughlin down that left. And I think the more Macca can trust him to keep the ball and release the ball when it's correct, the more confident he's going to be to get beyond him, and which then opens up that avenue of going down the left and getting a ball into the box and open one of the strikers or whoever can get on it. So between now and the end of the season, hopefully if those two can, Vickers and Macca in particular, stay fit and build that sort of relationship down that left hand side, and every now and then throw Quinn into the mix as well when he can play his 20-30 minutes or whatever he does, that should be a strong tool going forward, and it's not too different from the promotion season. We were very strong down that left-hand side for a large proportion of so, that'll hopefully make it, even if it's just a 10% difference, hopefully that'll be enough to change some of these defeats into draws or draws into wins, because we haven't been far off.
No, we certainly haven't. Right, we are running rapidly out of time. A reminder that if you over the last 25 minutes have left a comment and thought, why on earth have Craig, Nathan, Clive and Jim not bothered to respond to my comment, we are not live. We are recording this a little bit earlier on in the day because we're all busy people and we just haven't got time for a live this week. Hence the appearance of Nathan. He can never do evenings. If you see Nathan on the show, you can guarantee either we've sacked the manager or it's an afternoon sometime. He never does evening times because what is it that you got to read now? Peppa Pig does Jeremy Kyle. Is that what it is, Nathan?
Peppa Pig on repeat, and every story going.
Brilliant. Right, time for this. So can you be the master or an embarrassing disaster? In this guessing game, there's a simple aim. It's outguess the rest and be the best. Win, lose or draw. Do you know the score? Who will be your hero to make sure you don't score zero? Yes, it may be fiction, but this is Podcast Predictions. So this used to be Nathan's favourite game, but he's not played it all series long and he ain't got a chance of winning it this year. So it's my favourite year this year. However, that said, things can change very quickly in the land of podcast predictions. We've got 2 games to predict. I'm going to kick us off because I won the week for the Wigan game. I'm going to start with the trip to Stevenage. And I'm going to go for a Mansfield 2-0 win. And I'm going to go for my mate Dave as my fancy captain. Jim, you're up next. Stevenage.
I think 2-2. I'll go Vickers.
Clive.
1-1 draw, Dave.
And Nathan, win, lose or draw?
1-0 win.
And your fantasy captain?
Macca for the 4th game running.
Have you been enter it?
That breaks the rules. That breaks the rules.
Not as in, because he's won it the last 3 times, hasn't he?
Oh, yeah, no.
That's what I'm saying. I've not entered it 4 times
Nathan's
myself.
not entered, so those
Oh,
rules
it's all
don't
right
count.
then, Nathan.
Yeah.
You're forgiven.
Yeah. As soon as you've not entered, Nathan, let's get 2 games in a row for you. Exeter midweek, Tuesday night.
Oh, come on. We're going to get 6 points. 2-1 win.
And who are you going to choose? You cannot choose Macca again.
Is that the rule? You can't go 2 games in a row?
Yeah, it's 3, but yeah.
Oh, well, anyway, I'll go for Vickers for that one.
Clive.
Exeter 0, Stags 2, Reed.
Jim.
3-1 Stags win. I'll go Cargill.
And I'm also going to go for a win. I'm going to go for a 3-1 win. I'm going to agree with Jim, but I'm going to change my player. And I'm going to go with Hewitt as my choice. If you want to play along with podcast predictions, you can do so via the link in the description. You must submit your guesses no later than 1 hour and 1 minute before kick-off on your scheduled games. And don't forget to follow us on social media to find out who wins the week. Right, we've got 2 minutes before I've got to finish the show and leave. Clive, 2 games coming up. Can Mansfield get the 6 points? Can we find a positive way forward? And by the time we rejoin and do a live next week, we'll all be in a better mood.
Absolutely.
There we go. Said it all. Jim?
I'm going for 4 points. I strongly believe we have turned the corner and we'll be okay. I'll take 4 points. I'll be happy with that any day of the week.
And we've got to leave the final word to the man who has taken time out of watching Peppa Pig, has not bothered putting the kids to bed because it's the afternoon, people. They're probably having a nap right now. Nathan, generally your thoughts on the season so far, and of course with X amount of games now left, the times of sand are running out in League One. Can the Stags do what they failed to do 20-odd years ago and actually survive?
They're at nursery, by the way. That's why I'm smiling. But Yeah, I think so.
Don't lie, they're locked in downstairs cupboard. We know this is modern life Harry Potter.
Oh, I need to tell my mic down. I didn't know you could hear them. Yeah, I think we've got enough. I do. It's a little bit worrying the fact that some of the teams down there had picked up a little bit. Burton picked up points. Even Shrewsbury had a little run and things. But I just think we've got enough character in our squad to do it. And looking ahead, even short term wise, the next couple of games, I'd even take 2 points. But Stevenage away, we have a pretty good record there. We've already won there this season, in the FA Cup. So hopefully that'll be the next 2 games could be the sort of real kickstart just to settle us for the last few, last quarter of the season.
Well, there you go. Jim, thanks so much for your time this afternoon. We'll see you again. I'll see you on Saturday for the game, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks' time on the podcast. Say bye.
See you guys. Bye.
That's him
Bye,
gone.
Jim.
And Clive as well. We'll look forward to seeing you on the pod next week as well. Nathan, I'm sure we'll see you back in a few weeks' time. Just before we go, there is one thing we haven't discussed on this week's podcast, and we purposely haven't, and that, of course, is the news about Lucas Akins. It's nothing to do with anything on the pitch. It's a personal issue. It's not for us to comment on, and I would strongly suggest that, given the gravity of the situation and the seriousness of it as well, that those of you on social media that are speculating and talk about it, just don't. It's not our place to say. It's a horrible thing for anybody concerned to go through. It's not our place to talk about it, so we won't. Others will, but we certainly will not. Nathan, hopefully we'll see you on the podcast again before the end of the season, and we can talk about staying up in League One, because we need to get you back on, because you've got to endure a round of What's in Craig's Bucket and some of the other random traditional quizzes, which of course make this podcast so great, haven't you?
I've experienced that bucket game once. I mean, that was enough for me, but I'm happy to hopefully get some more. And now I'm back in Mansfield. The garden renovation's all done, so maybe we could have a end of season surviving relegation special in the hot tub. Who knows?
Hey, that would be full circle. That's how we finished the first year after the first podcast. So maybe we will. Nath, thanks so much for your time. Clive, thanks so much for your time as well. And of course, thank you so much for your time for you guys at home as well. That is pretty much all we've got time for. So sorry that we've had to cut this one short. However, we will be back next week with a proper full live episode, and maybe we'll try and tempt Nathan in as well. It was good to see him. My thanks to Nathan, for Clive, and for Jim for all managing to be available last minute. The time as we record this is currently 4:36. So we've not been live tonight. We have just been doing this afternoon. We will see you again next week. Don't forget to get involved via the link in the description for all things podcast predictions. And stay tuned to our social media to find out when we're next going to be live. This is the show for the fans, by the fans. We've picked up points, plural. Maybe we can pick up 6 from our next 2 games. We can only dream. Good night.